Hello everyone, and welcome to the BIONICLE Iceberg Explained. Whilst many of you are probably familiar with both BIONICLE and the Iceberg videos, I'll do a brief explanation of both. BIONICLE is a line of buildable action figures that were a part of LEGO's Technic theme. Complete with an original story, BIONICLE followed the adventures of the beings of the Matoran universe, as they battled enemies with their elemental powers and mask powers. As one of LEGO's most popular themes, BIONICLE has attracted a large following, and has been the subject of a long history of countless trivia, mysteries, events, and much more. The Iceberg represents a hierarchy of knowledge of sorts, with the most well-known information pertaining to the topic at the top of the iceberg, and the deeper down you go, the more obscure and mysterious the knowledge becomes. This video will be a long explanation of this specific BIONICLE iceberg, created by me, Mel, with input and massive assistance from various members of the community, including those from BIONICLE Mask Posting, the BIONICLE LEGO subreddit, and the BIONICLE Day Discord server. Narration for multiple parts of this are graciously provided by Swirt, Vakiti, and Tammy Calamity, and special thanks to these three and JSL Browning for proofreading and fact-checking the script. Due to time constraints, this video will only cover the first 4 levels of the iceberg, but I do plan on making additional parts in future. Anyways, get comfortable and enjoy the BIONICLE Iceberg Explained Part 1. The Toa. The Toa Mata are the original group of 6 Toa, legendary heroes who are destined to reawaken Matanui. They were prominently featured on most BIONICLE promos, and are the most iconic group of characters in the franchise. Matanui. Matanui is the great spirit of the Matoran universe, an extremely powerful being that the Matoran dedicate their lives to serving. As the story went on, more and more would be revealed about Matanui's nature as a being. Tahu. Tahu is the leader of the Toa, and controls the element of fire. If you ask someone with a passing knowledge of BIONICLE to describe a character, they'd likely describe Tahu, with his flaming sword and his iconic howl, the great mask of shielding. The games. Several BIONICLE games were released over the years, the most notable of those being BIONICLE the Game for 6th generation consoles, BIONICLE Heroes for 7th generation consoles, and the Matanui Online game, an online flash game. The games generally provided a abridged version of the story for the years that they released, but are mostly considered non-canon. The movies. There were 4 movies produced during BIONICLE's original run, all of which are canon. They are, in release order, BIONICLE Mask of Light, BIONICLE 2 Legends of Metru Nui, BIONICLE 3 Web of Shadows, and BIONICLE The Legend Reborn. All were released direct to video, and were how many fans were first introduced to the story. The Retrospective. The Retrospective is a 4-minute long animated video, serving as an extremely abridged summary of the first 7 years of the BIONICLE story, ending with a teaser for the then upcoming Fantoka storyline in 2008. The video features an instrumental version of Gravity Hurts by Cryoshell, and narration by Tony Wedgwood. The retrospective is still quite popular in the fandom, giving viewers an easily accessible and entertaining look into the entire story.
Hero Factory. Hero Factory is a successor series to BIONICLE, following the 2010 cancellation of the latter. It had a much simpler story, featuring robotic superheroes built in the titular factory, fighting criminals in a futuristic world. The first wave of sets were very similar to BIONICLE's late set design, but future waves utilized the Character and Creature Building System, or CCBS, a radical new construction system that would be used by most of LEGO's subsequent action figure lines. Hero Factory ran for 5 years, ending in 2014. G2. 5 years after BIONICLE's cancellation, the franchise was revived in 2015 with a brand new world and story. Utilizing CCBS, Generation 2 was met with a very mixed reception from fans. Despite being planned with a 3-year run in mind, G2 was cancelled in mid-2016. Toa Mata were not the first Toa. This was a massive revelation which came at the end of the 2003 story, at which point the Turaga, the tribal elders of Matanui, revealed to the Toa Mata that they were not the first Toa. The Turaga go on to describe their adventures as the Toa Metru, 1,000 years before, which was depicted in the Bionicle Adventure series of novels, as well as the second and third Bionicle movies. Makuta is a species and Makuta's real name. The Makuta is the main villain of the Bionicle story, an evil entity responsible for putting Matanui into a deep slumber and subjecting the Matoran to his malevolent tyranny, amongst other things. In the 2007 guidebook, Bionicle World, it is revealed that the word Makuta actually refers to a species in the Matoran universe, not just the singular character we have known up to this point. The main villain's full name was actually Makuta Pterodax. This was met with quite a backlash from many fans at the time who preferred the more mystical-sounding name he had originally, feeling as though giving Makuta a real name robbed him of his identity as an evil spirit. Whilst having their own names, all Makuta are also known by a title, such as the Makuta of Metru Nui, based on the location they reside in, retroactively explaining why Pterodax was simply referred to as Makuta before this point. Matanui Online Game. The Matanui Online Game, or Monog, was a Flash-based point-and-click adventure released by Templar Studios in 9 chapters over the course of 2001. Originally intended as a more low-key story about the Matoran and Matanui, it then became the prime storytelling avenue for the 2001 story with the cancellation of the PC game, and has since gone down in history as one of the most beloved Bionicle stories. In the game, you play as an adventurous Matoran journeying across the island of Matanui, collecting knowledge, discovering the mysteries of the island, and witnessing several major events of the story. Metru Nui. The main setting of the second and third films, as well as the 2004 and 2005 story as a whole, Metru Nui is an island city revealed at the end of the 2003 story. It was where the Matoran and Matanui used to live before being forced to relocate to Matanui, losing their memories of the city. As the story went on, the Matoran would return to Metru Nui, and the city was extensively developed as an important location in the story. Bionicle characters are cyborgs. A common misconception from those not informed about the Bionicle story is that the characters are fully robotic beings, when in actuality they are biomechanical, having organic components as well as mechanical ones. The specific anatomy of their biology is left largely ambiguous, but most characters are mentioned to, at the very least, probably have organic lungs and muscles, and it is known that 85% of the bodies of Matoran and Matoran adjacent species are mechanical, with 15% being organic. This concept would be further complicated with the introduction of the beings of Spherus Magna, who are mostly organic with robotic implants. Greg Varshti. Well known as the face of Bionicle storytelling, Greg Varshti began his LEGO career as a LEGO magazine writer in 2000, and was later hired to write the Bionicle comics from 2001 onward. He replaced Kathy Hafka as the author of the novel starting with Tales of the Masked in 2003, and wrote every single novel from then on until the cancellation in 2010. Varshti was and is still known for his dedication to the Bionicle story, in which he would frequently respond to questions about the story and universe on various forums, with many of these answers containing extremely important story information. Greg also wrote all the story serials beginning in 2007. Greg is often mislabeled as the head writer for Bionicle, despite the franchise having a story team of multiple people, and among the fanbase is usually unfairly blamed for any decisions pertaining to the story of Bionicle. Ask Greg. This continues on from the previous entry. Greg Varshti used to respond to questions via a service called Ask Greg on the Bionicle's websites. The universe is a giant robot. At the end of the 2008 story, it was revealed that the entire Matoran universe was actually the innards of the enormous biomechanical body of Matanui. This massive revelation was hinted at several times in prior storylines. Of all the twists and turns of Bionicle's history, this is the most well-known and is often cited by fans as a prime example of the long-term mystery storytelling aspect of the story. Bionicle saved LEGO from bankruptcy. In the late 1990s, LEGO was struggling financially, and the licensing fees being paid for lines such as Star Wars were not helping the situation. LEGO needed an original line with a story where licensing fees would not be an issue, and after several revisions and trials, ended up with Bionicle. Due in part to Bionicle's massive success, LEGO were largely lifted out of their financial troubles.
MOCs. A MOC, an acronym for My Own Creation, is a Bionicle model designed and built by a fan. MOC is also used in LEGO communities not related to Bionicle extensively in the same way. Some fans have self-MOCs, representations of themselves as Bionicle characters. Reviving Bionicle. Reviving Bionicle is a YouTube series by Suddenly Oranges, originally focusing on the exploits of a group of Bionicle toys, inexplicably alive as in Arby and the Chief, trying to deal with the cancellation of Bionicle. The series evolved into a character-driven drama that proved extremely popular with fans. It is particularly well known for some of its more humorous lines, such as the catchphrase "Hail Denmark," as well as the fact that all the characters, with a couple of exceptions, speak with a text-to-speech program rather than being voiced by people. Good Guy. In August 2006, Norwegian weekly comic book series Donald Duck & Co. included a promotional Bionicle figure named Good Guy, a small and rudimentary figure with no significance to the storyline. Many years later, Good Guy became a popular meme even outside of the Bionicle fandom, as a result of his quirky name and appearance. Good Guy has since appeared in many Bionicle fan projects, including a small cameo in the last season of Robot Chicken. Yo-Yo Paraka. The Paraka rap is a song made to promote the villain sets for 2006, the Paraka. The song is well known among the fandom for its attempt to be edgy and cool, using rap music and depicting the Paraka as stereotypical criminal gangsters. TTV. The Three Virtues channel is a group of Bionicle and LEGO fans formed in 2009 and continues to this day as a well-known group among the fandom. The TTV message boards have been a location for many important fandom discussions and events, including many of Greg Farshti's Q&A sessions and the 2020 to 2022 canonization contests. Move Along. Move Along is a song by the band The All-American Rejects, featured heavily in 2006 promotional materials for the Toa and Ica, the new line of Toa characters for that year. Since then, many associate the song with this year of Bionicle. Beezy Power. Beezy Power is a forum where users can discuss Bionicle and other LEGO-related topics. The forum dates back to the earliest days of the franchise and is one of the oldest Bionicle-related forums in existence, along with Mask of Destiny. Beezy Power has been a very prominent force in the fandom. Most Bionicle fans who are active online during its run almost certainly use Beezy Power at some point. BS01. Bionicle Sector 01 is the largest and most popular Bionicle wiki, dating back to 2002 and having gone through several major revisions since. BS01 is referred to by most people writing and researching on the topic of Bionicle, and is one of the foremost authorities on the lore of the franchise. Biomedia Project. Biomedia Project, or BMP, is a site run by the Mask of Destiny group, dedicated to preserving Bionicle media including comics, books, games, films, style guides, and much more. Maori controversy. Much of Bionicle's aesthetics and terminology were borrowed from Polynesian languages, as admitted by Alistair Swinnerton, the writer of the 2001 Story Bible. Several Bionicle characters, for example, were named using Polynesian words with thematically relevant definitions. Here is a full list of words used. Much of the aesthetic design and concepts were lifted from Polynesian culture as well. For example, the island of Matanui strongly resembles a Pacific island. Matanui himself resembles the Moai statues of Rapa Nui. The list goes on. LEGO's use of these culturally significant concepts had mixed reactions among the fandom, with discussions becoming ever frequent on how ethically LEGO handled this. Maori representatives, in a legal altercation with LEGO, claimed that they unethically used the terms without proper respect for their cultural context. Particular issue was taken with the use of the word tohunga, which was used by Bionicle to refer to what would later be renamed to the Matoran. In Maori culture, the word tohunga refers to an expert and respected practitioner. LEGO settled the legal battle by acknowledging the wrongs and changed most of the names, either completely or by adjusting the spelling slightly. There is much more to be said on the topic of cultural appropriation in Bionicle, but it is beyond the scope of this video. Cryoshell. Cryoshell is a Danish alternative rock band formed in 2006 and are well known for the large number of songs they produce for Bionicle, including Creeping in My Soul, Closer to the Truth, Gravity Hurts, and Bye Bye Babylon. The songs were featured prominently in many promos, videos, and even one of the films, and have gone on to influence the memories fans have of the sound of late Bionicle. Kanoka Club. The Kanoka Club was a section of Bionicle.com where fans could enter Kanoka codes found on set canisters and other Bionicle merchandise to receive virtual rewards. For example, entering the code found on Bionicle Legends 10 Swamp of Secrets would grant access to the two-part story The Kingdom. Huki and Maku. Huki and Maku were two characters introduced in the first years of Bionicle, and their characterization in the Templar-produced Madanui Online game and the Borok animations portrays them as romantically involved. To date, these are the only two established characters in Bionicle explicitly shown as being in love, aside from Samud's late partner, which stands in contrast to what would later be established about romantic love in the Batoran universe. It is worth mentioning that Huki and Maku's romance was a creation of Templar, not the story team, although it may be based on the implied romantic subtext in Maku's original 2001 bio, which states that she regularly sneaks out of Gakoro to spy on Huki. Krakua's Prophecy. In Bionicle Adventures 10 Time Trap, Toa Vakama has a vision of the future in which he sees a Toa of Sonics, Krakua, sneaking through a besieged fortress. This vision of Krakua speaks to Vakama, telling him that he will one day have to just sit and watch as 6 heroes depart on a perilous journey, foreshadowing both the Toa Nuva leaving for Voyanui, and the soon-to-be Toa Enika leaving in search of them. Great Spirit Robot made by LEGO designer. To celebrate the 20th anniversary of Bionicle, LEGO set designers Nick van Slagmat and Nick Voss designed unofficial tribute sets, which fans could build using instructions they released online. Nick created a bust of the Great Spirit Robot, while Nick created an alternate model of the LEGO art sets featuring Kanohi masks.
LEGO Ideas Projects. LEGO Ideas is a website allowing users to submit LEGO designs that they have constructed, with the potential for submitted designs to be officially produced and distributed by LEGO themselves, provided that they reach 10,000 votes and meet LEGO's extensive submission criteria. Many Bionicle projects have gotten traction on Ideas, most notably Sakoda's The Legend of the Bionicle design in 2019, depicting a rotating mural of notable Bionicle events and iconography. The submission reached 10,000 votes and was considered, but ultimately not approved by LEGO. Submissions continue to this day. 90th Anniversary Vote. In 2021, LEGO Ideas launched a contest in which users could vote on which classic LEGO theme they would like to see receive a new set for the 90th anniversary of LEGO. Bionicle was one of the options, and the fandom rallied behind it against other themes like castle and trains. This effort resulted in Bionicle winning, but LEGO consolidated the votes of several of the fantasy themes into a single castle winner to justify a new castle set, much to the disappointment of fans. At LEGOCon 2022, 3 large 90th anniversary sets were officially announced for the Pirates, Space, and Castle themes. Baby Tahu. A surprise announcement in 2022 revealed an additional 90th anniversary set to be released in the LEGO Classic line, containing a large box with parts to build mini versions of dozens of LEGO themes from their history. Most notably for Bionicle fans, one of these was a small representation of Tahu's 2001 design. Reception to this release was mixed, with some people angry at the googly eyes featured on our beloved Tower of Fire, but the majority of the fan base warmly embraced it, and Tahu's cute and friendly design has made a great impression on fans. Faber's brain tumour. Christian Faber, who would eventually become the art director for Bionicle, was diagnosed with a benign brain tumour in 1986, and was required to take medication to treat it for a decade. These pills did come with side effects, however, such as morning sickness. To help cope with this, he imagined the pills he took as containing tiny soldiers that were fighting the tumour. In his own words, "That was the sort of story building inside my imagination long before Bionicle, and when I saw the packaging from the design department, which was like a canister, it just clicked and reminded me of the capsules that I had been eating for 10 years. This experience informed his subsequent writing of the Bionicle story, which is in a very similar vein. The Bionicle are medication, if you like, for Matanui's body, inside of which they are fighting Makuta, a disease infecting Matanui from the inside. Krakua does not wear a how. Toa Krakua is a character created by fan John Dexter and the winning entry of the 2005 Brickmaster Toa Building Contest, and was accepted into canon as an official character. Krakua's design has him wearing a Kanohi How, but he was referred to in story as wearing a Kanohi Seletu, the mask of telepathy. Many fans believe that Krakua is wearing a Seletu in the shape of a How, although many clues in the story strongly imply that Krakua is wearing a normal shaped Seletu, making the mask used in the model non-canon. LEGO Adventures. In 2001, LEGO published a short series of bizarre barnacle comics in the UK exclusive LEGO Adventures magazine, chronicling the Toa's first days on the island of Matanui. One issue misidentifies the Garmatoran Maku as male, while others feature Tahu saying, "Come to Daddy, River of Lava." Free the band! Part of the marketing campaign for Barnacle in 2006 featured the All-American rejects being supposedly kidnapped by the Paraka and the Toa Nika attempting to save them. The campaign was backed up by 3 websites featuring videos, games and promos all referring to the kidnapping of the band.
This is a fake report.
Chart-topping rock group, the All-American Rejects, is feared to be lost at sea. The band, sailing aboard chartered luxury cruiser, the Rock Yacht 3, lost radio contact when the ship neared an unknown island. Sources tell us the band was allegedly captured by the evil Paraka, and that a heroic group, the Anika, have begun a furious battle to free the band.
You can join the battle at freetheband.com. Ask your parents' permission before going online.
This narrative is, of course, non-canon to the Barnacle storyline, although it wouldn't surprise me if someone had written to Greg trying to make the All-American Rejects canon. Variki. Toa Variki is a fan-made character for the website contest in the early 2000s, whose image was created by photoshopping a promo image of Tahu and giving him a distorted purple mask with lightning bolts. Possibly due to the mysterious nature of the franchise at the time and the fact that we were all a lot younger and dumber, this obviously photoshopped image was believed to be real by a lot of people. Over the years, a large amount of background lore on Variki has developed, and he has been accepted into many fandom headcanons since. However, in the Barnacle storyline, Variki was never alluded to, and the 7th Toa ended up being Takua transforming into Takanuva. YouTuber Wixale has made an in-depth video on Variki's full history that provides a much more detailed look at this character. Borok, Armatoran. During the 2008 story, the Toa Nuva meet the Avmatoran or Matoran of Light and witness something rather strange, that the Borok, insectoid robotic swarms that they fought in the 2002 story, used to be Avmatoran that had willingly transformed. Avmatoran have a chance to be transformed into Borok at the end of their lives, and they accept this willingly. Many in the fandom have considered this revelation somewhat disturbing, not helped by the fact that in previous years, the Matoran had made vehicles made out of Borok corpses, which gets worse the more you think about it. Turaga Lacan has no right hand. Lacan featured in his Turaga form in the second and best film, but this was never released as an official set. However, in 2006, a promo set packaged with Duracell batteries, and this was called Good Guy. This set, which bears a strong resemblance to Turaga Lacan with his mask, colour scheme and staff, was canonised by Greg Fashdi in 2014 as a representation of Turaga Lacan. As can be seen in the photo, the figure lacks a right hand. Mock Pages. Mock Pages, started in 2003, was a popular site on which users could post their LEGO mocks, or my own creation, and was well known among the Barnacle fandom, as most popular mock artists would post on there. Leading up to 2020, the site suffered frequent shutdowns and conflict, and was eventually taken down that year. The Great Spirit Robot's true height. Matanui's original robotic body contains the entire Matoran universe inside of it, and so could fairly be described as quite big. However, exactly how big this Great Spirit robot is has been a source of some consternation. Greg Fashdi has explicitly stated in the story that the Great Spirit robot was 40 million feet tall, or 12,192 kilometers, which is close to the diameter of the planet Earth. This sizing gets a little bit weird when factored into the climax of the 2008 story, where the Great Spirit robot's face and head smash through the island of Matanui. Christian Faber later published a diagram of how he pictured the size, and gave it the much more realistic size of 3,150 kilometers, or a little over 1 million feet. The diagram scales the robot alongside the island of Matanui and provides a much more workable size for the robot. Love isn't canon. The inhabitants of the Matoran universe are biomechanical constructs created by the Great Beings, and thus cannot reproduce. It was this fact that was the basis for the idea that love isn't canon. The inhabitants of the Matoran universe would never evolve to require pair bonding and romantic love. This fact has been misinterpreted by many fans and unfairly blamed on Greg due to misconceptions around his answers to the topic. Love is, at the very least, definitively canon for the beings of Spheris Magna, who can reproduce, so it's not outside the realm of possibility that the beings of the Matoran universe could learn to feel love upon their emigration to the planet at the end of the main storyline. Throwbots and Robo-Riders. Prior to Bionicle's development, LEGO developed several construction lines, short for constructible action figures, that bear many similarities to Bionicle. The two most notable ones were Throwbots, also called Slizers in Europe, and Robo-Riders. Throwbots had a simple story about a group of robots fighting an elemental war, which was clearly a theme reused in Bionicle. Robo Riders, however, was about a group of robotic motorbikes who could fight some nebulous threat. Both themes were very short-lived, but their influence on Bionicle continued, especially in regards to the large amount of pieces from both themes being reused and recoloured in the Bionicle line. Bionicle Day. Bionicle Day is an annual event celebrating Bionicle. It tends to be celebrated around the 10th of August because 8/10 resembles the BIO in Bionicle, and because of the American calendar's dominance despite it being an inferior. And let it go, Tammy, for God's sake, let it go. I'm not supposed to read that bit. Legend of Matanui. The Legend of Matanui was a PC game originally planned for release in 2001 and would have been the primary story material for that year. The game had a troubled development, however, and was ultimately cancelled, with some of its plot threads, particularly those towards the end, being integrated into Mnog. The Konoe Vahi, The Mask of Time, was also supposed to be originally released alongside this game. Quest for the Toa. Bionicle Quest for the Toa, originally titled Tales of the Tohunga, was a Game Boy Advance game released in late 2001. Despite being released towards the end of the year, Quest of the Toa is actually chronologically the beginning of the 2001 story, focusing on Takua as he gathers the Toa stones and summons the Toa Mater to the shores of Matanui. The ending of the story leads right into the beginning of Mnog. Sexy Rudaka. The character of Rudaka, the main villain of the 2005 story, is an interestingly designed set. Easily the most stereotypically feminine Bionicle set ever produced, Rudaka features a clearly defined pair of heels, bust, and ponytail. This was further leaned into for her film adaptation in Web of Shadows, where her sultry voice and streamlined appearance became noticeable traits. Since that film's release, it is common in the fanbase for fans to make jokes about these design choices, as well as fan recreations emphasising these choices to a greater degree than her original set, for better or for worse. Velika is a great being. At the end of Bionicle's storyline, it was revealed that a great being had disguised themselves within the Matanui robots during its creation, and hidden amongst them for the entire duration of the story. This being was stated by Greg to be a character we had already met, and a contest on BZ Power held by Greg allowed fans to guess who the character might be. This contest was abandoned, however, and it was not until 2012, after the stories had stopped being written, that Greg would reveal who this great being was, the diminutive, quirky Pomatoran named Velika. Velika's status as a great being is highly divisive amongst fans, especially since it was not alluded to at all in the story serials themselves. Conflicting Pterodax deaths. During the final battle of the 2010 story, Makuta Pterodax and Matanui battle each other, each possessing a giant robot. The battle ends when Matanui, sensing that Pterodax is distracted, grabs him and pushes him into the path of an oncoming planetary fragment, finally killing him. But what exactly struck Makuta Pterodax in the back of the head is different depending on which depiction of the story you read. In Journey's End, the final novel, and in the online blog Matanui Saga, it is clearly stated to be the planet of Bota Magna, which was journeying back to connect with Barra Magna. However, in the final comic Rebirth, it is shown to be a detached fragment from the planet Aqua Magna. The story serial Samad's Tale mentions that it was a fragment of one of those two moons, not specifying which. The interpretation from the comic, which is a fragment of Aqua Magna, is what Greg confirmed to be canon back in 2010, which is odd because he wrote the Journey's End novel. The Hand Debate. During development of the first movie, Mask of Light, there was an internal debate between LEGO and the production company Creative Capers about whether or not the character designs should have hands. Creative Capers ultimately won, and all characters in the film were shown to have full 5-fingered hands. Over subsequent years, story material and sets would conflict as to the canon nature of hands. Greg has stated on at least one occasion that Matoran universe inhabitants do not have fingers, rather they have magnetic plates in their hands allowing them to grab things. This is actually suggested in Mask of Light when Takua's Koli stick seems to magnetically attach to his hand. This does however contrast with mentions of clawed hands in the novel, as well as the multitude of barnacle sets that have fingers, including the Glatorian and Stars sets. Lime joints. In 2007, anyone who bought sets containing socket joints in lime green would be shocked to find that these parts were incredibly brittle and liable to break after even a single use. This was the case for the sets Hali, Elek and Lezavek. It was suggested that this was a problem with the specific mould injection used for this coloured plastic at LEGO's manufacturing centres at the time. The problem was supposedly fixed the following year, although unfortunately LEGO introduced a redesign of the part that broke regardless of colour. Fans requiring replacements are advised to seek out the Kiloax set from 2005 and the Nui Rama set from 2001. Unfortunately, the double socket parts used for Elex limbs are exclusive to that set. Shadow Toa. In the original story bible for 2001, the Toa Mata battle a group of Shadow Toa, dark, mirrored versions of themselves. Despite this, the battle was never depicted in any canon story material in 2001, as the cancelled PC game Legend of Matanui was meant to depict it. This fight was finally shown in the 2003 book Tale of the Toa. However, even that was contentious, since Greg said that the nature of their defeat was different from that depicted in the novel. A rewritten part of this fight would eventually be leaked to the public in a style guide years later. Barnacle references in modern LEGO. Although LEGO rarely mentions Barnacle by name these days, there are occasional references to it in some modern LEGO sets, including the 2020 passenger airplane set, which features Voyanui as one of its destinations, as well as the 2021 Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets set, in which a How can be seen as one of the star constellations. Tartarak's question? Tartarak, an enormous sentient dragon-like Rahi, appears in 2 of the Barnacle Adventures novels as well as one of the 2004 comics, and is well known for its constant utterance of the phrase, "The answer! Tell me the answer!" Rahaga Pooks' theory that it was asking how it appeared on Metru Nui so suddenly and so far away from its home is generally accepted to be the correct answer. Tren Krom. In the 2008 story, we are introduced to a mysterious being named Tren Krom, a remnant from the distant origin of the Matoran universe. The Great Beings created Tren Krom to run the Matoran universe during the development of Matanui's consciousness. Once this was done, Tren Krom was sealed away by the Great Beings, fused to an island bearing his name, becoming a myth to the universe. He was later met by several beings over the course of the story, partaking in a few key story events. The most notable thing about Tren Krom is his visual design, which has only ever been described in words but never visually shown. Quote, Tren Krom was horrifying and despicable in appearance, and primal in nature. He was fully organic, and his scarlet body was covered with tentacles coated with sharp hooks. His eyes were simply holes inlaid into his gelatinous skull. His appearance was so terrible that it was known to drive lesser beings insane. Order of Matanui member Brutaka had to struggle to keep hold of his sanity after seeing Tren Krom. Tren Krom would later be brutally killed by the disguised great being Velika. Quest for Matanui. In April 2020, a game developer Craney Creations released a trailer for a game called Quest for Matanui, a fan game based on the 2001 story. The trailer went viral even outside the Barnacle fandom and has been praised for its graphics and production compared to many other fan projects. No release date has yet been given and is expected to be quite a way away. The Mask of Light extended ending. For Mask of Light's premiere on Toonami, the film was given an extended ending narrated by Vakama, which featured several scenes from the then upcoming Legends of Metru Nui. The extended ending was never given an official release, but can now be found on YouTube.
And that's it for part 1. I hope you all enjoyed. Special thanks to Vakiti, JSL Browning, Swirt, and Tammy Calamity for their invaluable assistance and contributions to this video. As mentioned, I hope to make part 2 eventually, and armed with the experience of making this video, make it even better than part 1. Keep a lookout for it. Have a nice day, and if you're watching on Bionicle Day, enjoy the rest of the stream.